Interest is money you earn by using a bank account. So if you deposit or put money into an account and leave it there, don't touch it, let it stay there, the bank will actually pay you for using your money while it's deposited there. It's called the interest. On the other hand, if you borrow money from the bank, then you're going to have to pay interest for using their money. So this is where simple interest comes in. Simple interest is calculated once. So when you calculate that interest and you just calculate it one time, it's called simple interest. When you calculate it over a couple of times, it sort of compounds, and we'll talk about that in another section, compound interest. But simple interest is just simply calculated once. And so for that calculation, it's the formula I equals PRT. The P stands for the principal or the amount that's put in to the account. If you're borrowing money, it's the amount that you borrow. R represents the interest rate, and this is determined by the bank or the person who is making the loan. T stands for time. It is the length of time that you leave the money in the bank, or if you're borrowing, it is the time, the period of time in which you borrow the money. Alexis started a savings account with a $500 deposit that will earn 6% simple interest. Now, if she doesn't add or withdraw the money during the year, how much will she have in her account after 1 year? Well, to calculate the simple interest, first we need to calculate the simple interest on the account, and then after we calculate the simple interest, add that to the amount that she deposited, and you'll be able to tell how much she will have in her account after 1 year. So let's go ahead and proceed by finding out what the interest is. So in order to find the interest, all you need to do is multiply the principal times the rate times the time. And the reason you're multiplying, notice all the variables there are sandwiched together, which indicate that they are being multiplied. So recall P stands for the principal amount that is deposited, and in this case, that's 500. We were given that in the sentence, so we're going to remove the P and replace it with 500. R stands for rate. We were given that it is 6%, so we're going to remove the R, write it as a decimal, and replace it with 0.06. We're going to remove the T. T stands for time. We were given in the sentence that the time was 1 year. It stayed in the account for a whole year. So T would be 1. So let's go ahead and plug in all those values. Now all you need to do is get your calculator and multiply those three values. 500 times 0.06 times 1. So what did you get for the interest? Well, what you should have gotten is $30. So leaving the money in the account for a whole year will generate a $30 interest. So to find out how much she's going to have in her account after 1 year, remember she already has 500 that she initially deposited a year ago. So that's 500 plus the 30, the interest that was earned for keeping it there, will give her a total amount of $530. So she will have $530 in her account after 1 year. Simple interest. A grad student borrowed $7,200 at 15% interest for 6 months to pay tuition. Find the total amount due. So when it's time to pay back the loan, the total amount that will be due, we need to find out how much the interest is and then add the interest to the amount borrowed. So The interest, recall, I equals PRT. So the P, this is the amount that is borrowed, and the amount was borrowed was $7,200. The rate that it was borrowed was at 15% rate. So to turn that as a decimal, it would be 0.15. Time, how long was this loan period? 6 months. So it was not an entire year, so you would not write 1, and we're not going to write 6 either. What we got to do is figure out, well, 6 is 6 months out of 1 whole year. So to calculate that in terms of an amount, it would be 6 out of 12, because it was only 6 months out of that whole year, 6 months out of those 12 months. So you would write it as a fraction of 6/12. Now, many of your calculators can perform these fraction calculations, and if it doesn't, all you have to do is do top divided by the bottom and just put it in parentheses there, and it'll still calculate it for you. So using your calculator, you can calculate the 3 values there, and that will give you the interest, which is $540. Now, so to find out how much is due after those 6 months, let's see, she borrowed, or this student borrowed $7,200, which is the same as $7,200. So it's going to be that amount plus $540 interest, which means that at the end of the 6 months, this student is going to be looking to repay back $7,740. And there you have it, simple interest. Okay, now it's time to check your understanding of the simple interest concept. Find the simple interest earned on an investment of $800 for 1.5 years. The interest rate is 3.5%, round to the nearest cent. So if you like, you can pause the video, get your calculator out, and go ahead and compute or calculate the simple interest. Just a little hint for the time, 1.5, that's going to be 1.5 that you're going to plug in. For the interest rate, that's 3.5. And when you move that over as a decimal, you're going to get 0.035. That's what you're going to use to key in. So go ahead and finish calculating it, and I will continue in a moment. Okay, so when we plug those values into the interest formula, all we need to do is just multiply the 3 values. So 800 times 0.035 times 1.5, and what we will get here is $42. So rounding it to the nearest cent would be choice C. And there you have it, simple interest.